It can be extremely unnerving, unsettling, disturbing, and painful and confusing to either experience directly or witness the way that a narcissist can discard people like they're nothing. Narcissists can cut relationships off that seemed to mean a lot to them, people that they've spent years and years with, as if those relationships meant absolutely nothing. This can be really hard to deal with. And in today's video, I want to explain why narcissists do this, how it happens, but most importantly, why if this has happened to you, it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you. And it's not a reflection of anything that you did or didn't do for the narcissist. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Real quick before I get started, if you're a regular listener of mine, you've probably noticed that I haven't uploaded any long form videos in probably about a month. I think that's the longest I've ever gone without uploading long form videos, so I apologize for that. June has just been a really busy month for me. I've got family visiting, family birthdays, Father's Day, I went on vacation, I went back to school. I'm really busy and overwhelmed right now. There's a lot of weeds in my garden. Anyway, I'm gonna try to do better, and that's where I've been. So still dedicated to the channel, just I guess it's a bit much when I'm a little overwhelmed. So that's where I've been. And also you might notice that's Marshall. Marshall's in the video today. We'll just see. It's too bad he's right behind my head. He's so cute back there. Maybe I should do the video like this. Anyway, he'll probably be moving around during the video. So let's get started. The first part of the video, I want to explain how the narcissist can convince you that when they discard you, that it's your fault. And why it is so easy for people to take this blame on, to believe that it is their shortcoming, their fault. And I want to explain how it's not your fault, even if subconsciously even you're still really convinced that it is, because narcissists are really good at making everything your fault. When a narcissist starts to devalue you in a way that leads to an eventual discard, and using the word eventual, I mean, sometimes this can happen overnight, but when this happens, you didn't change and they didn't change, but someone's perception changed. And it's usually the narcissist's perception changed. But when a narcissist's perception changes, they don't want to take responsibility for that being something that's happening with them. They want to make it your fault, especially if it's a negative thing. If it's something that's going to lead to them making decisions that might not be popular with other people, they want to spin things in a way that make things your fault. So for example, if this is your spouse and they just walk out on you one day, well, they have to make that your fault, because that doesn't look like a very nice thing to do, to just walk out on your spouse one day with no warning and no good reason. So of course they have to spin it in a way that makes it your fault, even if you didn't do anything wrong. And one way that they can make this so convincing to you, that they can make you believe it's your fault, is sometimes they'll point out specific things that you did or didn't do, even if these things are subjective or hard to define. It's really hard for me to come up with an example because of the way they do this, but maybe they will tell you that you are rude, or you are lazy, or you are self-absorbed, or you don't listen to them, you don't pay enough attention to them. And to come up with specific examples, maybe they'll say something like, when we went to dinner last week at my sister's house, you didn't tell her thank you for making us dinner, and somehow that makes you a horrible person and I don't love you anymore and I'm leaving, right? Like, I mean, narcissists really will spin things like this in that way, and it's hard for you to defend yourself because maybe it was rude for you not to say thank you. And, you know, in these kinds of scenarios, maybe in reality, maybe you actually did say thank you. You just can't remember now because you're being gaslighted and by somebody who's trying to justify their own decisions and is just coming up with anything. Now, no matter how specific or concrete the narcissist is able to justify their discarding of you, these things only matter because of their perspective and their perception changing. So what I mean by that is if they're telling you, you were so rude not to say thank you to my sister, that only mattered to them because they already wanted to discard you. They were already in that frame of mind. If you could have been in the exact same situation if they were still idealizing you and you didn't say thank you to their sister for making dinner, then it would not have mattered. So you didn't change. Their perception changed. They went from idealizing you, and maybe in the scenario where they're idealizing you and you didn't say thank you to their sister, maybe what if their sister complained to the narcissist that you didn't say thank you? If they're idealizing you, they would probably defend you. They would probably try to tell the sister that the sister's being unreasonable. But now that their perception has changed and they want to discard you, now they're actually going to look out for these examples of you being whatever it is they want to make you out to be. And now they're going to make a big deal out of things that they normally wouldn't have cared about. And I think this is also a good explanation for why in day-to-day life with a narcissist, one day you can do something and it doesn't bother them, and the next day you can do exactly the same thing and suddenly it's the end of the world because you didn't change, their perception changed. But for these little imperfections, because as I've said before, nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. Maybe you didn't say thank you to the sister. That doesn't mean you're a terrible person. It means that you're not perfect. And maybe you should have said thank you, but that doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean that nobody should love you anymore and that you're irredeemable the way the narcissist will make you feel, right? But it can be very convincing that it's you that's flawed. It's you that caused the discard. It's your fault because that's what the narcissist wants you to believe. And that's what they want to believe because they don't want to see themselves as a horrible person that just discards people for no reason. They want to make it your fault so that they don't have to take accountability for their own choices and so they don't have to end up looking like the bad guy. Narcissists always want to be either the victim or the hero in every scenario imaginable. And so when they are actually the perpetrator and the one that is hurting people and causing problems, they have to spin it to be your fault. And another layer to this is that when narcissists find these things to explain why you deserve to be discarded, they will usually pick things that you can't fix or that you can't fix easily, things you don't have a lot of control over. So, you know, if they criticize you for something you did or didn't do last week, you can't fix that. You can't change what you did or didn't do last week. And they will purposefully choose things that you can't do anything about now, or they will choose subjective, abstract things about your personality, like you're boring or you're lazy or you don't listen. What does that even mean, right? That's so subjective. And no matter how hard you try to be whatever the opposite of whatever they're accusing you of, it's never enough. You never quite hit that mark because they're picking something subjective that you can't control. You can't control their judgment of whether or not you're lazy or you pay enough attention to them. You have no control over that. And so they will choose things like that you can't control so that you can never fix it. Because, and this is really, really important to understand, because they don't want you to fix whatever they're complaining about. They want these excuses and these justifications. For example, if they cheated on you and they said, well, I cheated on you because you don't pay enough attention to me, they don't want you to start paying more attention to them. That's not why they're complaining about how much attention you're paying to them. So if you're in a situation where a narcissist cheats on you and they say, oh, well, I cheated on you because you don't pay enough attention to me, and you decide to start trying to pay more attention, thinking that that's going to fix the problem, you're going to very quickly find out that there is no way to fix this. You can't pay enough attention to fix the situation because that's not what the narcissist wants. If anything, the narcissist wants you to pay less attention to them because that will add more validity to this justification that they've come up with to make their cheating on you your fault. They don't want you to fix it because, of course, they didn't cheat on you because you don't pay enough attention to them. If that was really the problem, they would have tried to address it with you before they started cheating on you, and then they wouldn't be blaming their choice on you, on something so subjective that you probably had no idea about. You had no idea that they felt that way because they didn't feel that way. They're using that after the fact to make it your fault and to justify their choices so that they don't have to take accountability and so that they can make you the bad guy. They can make themselves the victim in a scenario in which they betrayed you. So I hope that makes sense to explain why it's so easy to blame yourself, to buy into their narrative of how you failed them, when in reality, you didn't change. Their perception changed. And now they're going to look for reasons to make that your fault. And they're going to find reasons because you're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You could take the most amazing, loving, caring, talented, awesome person in the whole world, and that person is still going to be human. They're still not going to be perfect. And so you could take that person, and if you were a narcissist and you wanted to find something to complain about, you will find something. You will find something to complain about, anyone, if you look for it. And that's what a narcissist will do to you when they decide that they want to discard you. So the reasons that they find are not the reasons they're discarding you. It has nothing to do with you, and it's not your failure. So why do they do this? What leads up to this? Let's get into the second part of the video. First of all, a narcissist, a pathological narcissist, has a much easier time discarding people. They don't connect with other people in a deep, meaningful way. They are very shallow. Their relationships are very shallow. They never really get to know people, and people never really get to know them on any deep, meaningful level. So there's really no roots. Maybe there's roots, emotional roots and investment for you in your relationship with them, but they have put no roots down into their relationship with you, with anyone. And this has nothing to do with you. This is the way that they operate. They really don't have a hard time letting go of people in the same way that most of you listening probably do. And for those of you listening that have been in situations where you've had to cut relationships off with hurtful, abusive people, it was likely a very difficult decision for you, and maybe very painful. And maybe there was a lot of grief and loss at ending a relationship with someone. Even if they were abusive and harmful and hurtful and disrespectful, it still hurts to lose someone that meant something to you. Sometimes it hurts a lot for a long time. But to a narcissist, they just don't form these types of connections with people, and it just is not difficult for them to lose relationships. Out of sight, out of mind. When you're not right in front of them, you just don't matter anymore. And I know that's really painful and really difficult to accept when we're talking about someone that means a lot to you, but it is unfortunately the reality and part of what is so problematic about pathological narcissism. So that's first and foremost why it happens, because it's so easy for them to do it. It doesn't hurt them, and they don't feel a great loss. Now, what they do value in relationships is usefulness. And so if you're useful to them, they will want to keep you around in whatever way you're useful. Maybe you serve their ego. Maybe you provide physical needs for them. Maybe you help them financially, or maybe you provide things that make them feel like you make them look good by association or by things that you provide for them, whatever. Somehow you're useful to them. And that's why they'll keep you around, and that's why they will value people in their lives, because of their uses. When you are no longer useful to them, you have no other value. You have no intrinsic value as a human being that they have a relationship with. Zero. And for as long as you were useful, you probably felt like they valued you as a human being, because they will do and say things to make you believe that. But when you are no longer useful to them, it can be like a cold bucket of ice water in your face to suddenly be confronted with the reality of how little you actually mean to this person and how easily they can discard you. But it's unfortunately something that a lot of us have learned the hard way. Like, wow, I really didn't mean a thing to this person that I've spent all of my time and energy trying to please for the last 10 years. It all means nothing. And it does. It means nothing. Especially if you start to pose a liability. If you know too much about their past, about things they've done, things they wouldn't want other people to know, or if you now need something from them. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you have developed a physical or a mental illness, and you need someone to take care of you for a little bit, or you need a break, and you need something in return. Well, now you're no longer useful, and now you're taking up their resources. You're a liability in some way. A narcissist will throw you under the bus so fast and discard you because they don't understand why they should be giving their time and energy to someone who isn't giving anything back to them in that moment, because they don't have any connection with you as a human being. They only see you for your use. Now, another reason that a narcissist will discard you is that you failed to meet their expectations. But a narcissist's expectations are impossible to meet. So you are doomed to fail the narcissist. You are doomed to disappoint the narcissist. You will eventually disappoint the narcissist, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much effort you put into it, no matter how great you are, no matter how good you are to them and how much you give them, you will disappoint them. You will fail to meet their expectations. And I think a good illustration for how a narcissist views you when they're idealizing you versus when they start to devalue you and discard you is if you can imagine what it's like when you think about your favorite movie star, celebrity, or maybe like a politician that you really look up to, or some famous public figure that you really admire. A narcissist will look at somebody in the beginning of a relationship, someone they're idealizing, in that way. Like, you're superhuman. Like, you're just this amazing otherworldly being that can do no wrong. And I hope if you're listening, you can kind of get what I mean by that when you think of your favorite celebrity. But of course, as the narcissist gets to know you, if they develop a relationship with you, much as in the same way, if you were to actually develop a personal relationship with a celebrity that you idealize, you would start to see that this person is actually a flawed human being. You know, like maybe Taylor Swift, maybe she snores, or maybe Brad Pitt has zits on his back, or I don't know. Maybe Anne Hathaway has bad breath sometimes. I mean, I'm using physical examples of imperfection, but this image you have of them in your mind would start to crack, and you would start to see them as a real person. And that's what happens when narcissists are idealizing you, and then the relationship starts to develop in a way that normally would provide more depth and connection. But to the narcissist, all it does is start to break down this illusion that they have, this idealization that they've created, this pedestal that they've put you up on. And when a narcissist starts to see you as a real person and they start to see your flaws and imperfections, they don't accept that as, oh, wow, well, this is a real person, and I'm starting to get to know their imperfections. to them, it feels like a betrayal. Like you tricked them. Like you tried to make yourself seem perfect and now they can see what you're really all about. They feel like you did this on purpose. And because this happens to them every single time they get into a relationship, they feel like the whole world's out to get them. And, you know, they thought you were different. You were going to keep those promises that you didn't know you made. But, oh, you're just like everybody else because you're a human being that's not perfect. Part of the idealization, part of what the narcissist expects from this is that you're going to make their life perfect. You're going to solve their emotional problems. You're going to fill that bottomless pit of need that they feel in the middle of their soul. You're going to fill that finally, you know, after everything they've been through. You're going to be the one to finally make them feel complete, to make all these nagging feelings of insecurity and emptiness go away. You're going to solve all that for them. And somehow they believe that you understand this and that you failed them and you tricked them when they finally accept and realize that you're not going to solve their emotional problems for them. And they are still every bit as empty and flawed and frustrated as they were before they met you. But they're going to blame that on you because what alternative do they have other than to take accountability for their own problems, to take responsibility for themselves and to address these emotional problems that they have? They don't want to do that. It's so much easier to just say that it's because you don't pay enough attention to them. It's your fault. You failed them. They're not happy with you because you're not enough. And then they'll just move on to somebody else and idealize them for a little bit and pretend that that person's going to save the world for them and just do it all over again, over and over and over, because that's so much easier for them than actually taking accountability for themselves. They just remain in denial and they keep blaming other people for their own problems. A third reason that a narcissist might discard you is that you offended them. And I know I've seen this several times in my life where I've seen narcissistic people do this to other people, where a narcissist will be in a friendship or some sort of relationship with someone that seems really important to them. Like, I knew someone that I consider to be very narcissistic that was best friends with a couple people for maybe 10 years. Like they were best friends. And they would go on vacations together. They would spend tons of time together. And then one day, these two friends of this person I'm talking about, they missed an event that was important to this narcissistic person because they had to work. And they came later to another event that was related to it, but they missed this event. And that was it. The narcissist just cut off the friendship, just basically never talked to them again. And like, I was kind of front row to this, and I still, to this day, this was many years ago, but I still to this day it still boggles my mind. I just really don't understand. I wonder if there's more to the story, but that was it. This person that had shared so much life experience for so many years just cut them off like they were nothing because they offended him. And I've seen this in other ways. I'm just telling this specific story, but I've seen this similar type of thing happen several times with people that I consider to be very narcissistic. And I think that the common theme when you do something to offend a narcissist in a way that results in being discarded by them is what you did was you communicated very clearly, whether you meant to or not, you communicated very clearly that your life doesn't revolve around them or what they think. You said something or you did something that clearly showed them that you're going to put your needs above your desire to please them or make them feel like the center of the universe. And when you do or say something that communicates that to a narcissist, they will often just cut you right out of their life. Like, your world doesn't revolve around me. Your opinions and your behavior don't revolve around what I'm going to think of you. Well, what good are you to me? I don't need you in my life. And they will just cut you out because you don't mean anything to them as a human being. You only mean to them what they can use you for. And if you make it clear that you're going to put your needs first, they don't have any use for you. And I think this is one reason that there really is no work around this. You can't work things out with someone who expects you to always put them ahead of yourself, to always put their needs ahead of yours. You can't fake your way around that without making sacrifices that you shouldn't have to make. You can't manage that without harming yourself. Now, the last reason I want to talk about that a narcissist will discard you, I kind of alluded to a little when I talked about how you know too much about them now, and that is that you start to see them for who they are. And I want to make it clear that this doesn't mean that you changed. You didn't change, but your perception changed. You suddenly started to realize that this person doesn't care about you, or this person's using you or manipulating you, or has been lying to you, or isn't what they have told you they were. So you start to see them for who they really are. Your idealization of them starts to crack, but not in a way that just makes them human, but in a way that makes you realize that this person doesn't care about you, and this person has been lying to you, and this person is harming you. When you see the narcissist for who they really are, there's no greater threat to them than that. They don't want to work that out. They want to get rid of you ASAP, because their whole world is built up around a facade, a narrative, a story that they are constantly weaving, that they are constantly selling to other people. Their whole life is an act. And when you see through that, you can't unsee it. And they know that. They know you can't unsee that. And so they'll just get rid of you. They will discard you like you're nothing. And it doesn't matter how long you've been with them, or how much you've given to them, or how much time and effort you've put into trying to make them happy. None of that matters when something so threatening as you seeing them for who they really are has come up. And for me, when this has happened to me in the past, when I suddenly saw this person for who they really were and my perception changed, they knew immediately. And I tried to fake it. I tried to pretend for at least a little while that nothing had changed. And I was talking to my husband about this video before I sat down to record it, and he laughed and said that I don't hide my emotions very well. So he said if you were suddenly feeling negative emotions, then it was probably really obvious to them. So I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just me. But if you're anything like me, the minute that you realize that this person is not who you thought they were, they're going to realize that. They're going to see that in the way that you're behaving and the way you're reacting to their behavior. And they're going to want to get rid of you really fast, because now you're a liability and they no longer have use for you, and you're not cooperating with their narrative. You're not feeding their ego, and you're no longer part of the story that they're telling. You're a huge threat. And all of these reasons, including this one, have nothing to do with you and the kind of person you are. You didn't change. You're not a failure. You disappointed them because their expectations were ridiculously impossible, not because there's anything wrong with you. You are doomed to disappoint a narcissist. And if they never discard you, it's not because you were good enough. It's not because you had enough worth and value and that you put enough into the relationship. It's because they never stopped finding uses for you. And I know that sounds really harsh, but that's the way narcissists operate. You continued to serve a use. And that's the only reason they haven't discarded you. And as harsh as that sounds, the message I really want to put out there today is that if they did discard you, it wasn't because you weren't good enough. It's not your fault. And there's nothing you could have done better to avoid it, because you're not the reason it happened. This is how narcissists operate in relationships. This is how they will always operate. People are like commodities to them. They pick and choose people like grocery items off a shelf that they can use. And, you know, if you're a ketchup bottle that's run out of ketchup There's no more ketchup left. Well, why would they keep an empty ketchup bottle around? They throw it out. And that's how they see people. They don't see you for the intrinsic value you have as a human being. And I want you to understand that you do have great value because of who you are. And that's not something that just goes away because somebody else's perception changed. Somebody's perception, somebody who can't see your intrinsic value, who can't see it. That doesn't mean it isn't there. You deserve to be with people who can connect with you, who have the depth to develop a meaningful relationship with you and to see you for who you really are versus what you can do for them or how useful you can be to them. And I know this is all easier said than done, but if you've been discarded by a narcissist and you're struggling with the pain and the grief that can come along with that, I want to challenge you to continue to remind yourself that it's not your failure, and it doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of something better. It doesn't mean that you deserved to be discarded like that, because you're worth so much more than that. And just because the narcissist cannot see how much you're worth, how much you have to offer, and who you really are, doesn't make any of those things any less valuable. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye. Well, I guess Marshall just slept through the whole thing. What a good boy. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I went on vacation. I was gone for about a week. I've been back for a few days, but I think he's still recovering. Look how much he missed me. Talk about projecting, right? Marshall, do you want to come say hi? No. Okay. Oh, you want to come say hi? Come here. Okay, well, maybe next time. Okay, bye.